welcome to Washington.
Thanks. Good to be here.
The Tea Party movement has swept in so many people. Now, you're in an interesting position because while you apparently have strong relationships with the Tea Party, you do not consider yourself per se a Tea Party candidate, as I understand.
Well, I think it's important to note, look, I represent everybody in the 11th District, and to label myself, I think, with one group, look, I'm a conservative. I believe in less government, getting people back to work, and so that's what I am. And I do happen to have a lot of support of the Tea Party, and I'm proud of that support.
There are a lot of fresh young faces who come in with every congressional election.
Mm-hmm.
And so often then their politics seem to morph. They seem to kind of change a little bit and become part of the go along to get along culture here in the Beltway. Are you concerned about that influence, and are you confident that your principles the day you drive across the Beltway will be the same they were the day you came here?
Yeah, I think it's important. You always have to have some concern because, look, I've never done this before, and I know the pressure's intense, but I know the faith I was raised with. I know the Constitution that I fought for. I know the family that I was raised in, and I know that those values aren't going to change. And I have a lot of people that I'm leaning on to keep me accountable to that on a very private setting that can tell me when I've gone astray or when I've done things wrong, and that's important. And it's also important for people in politics to recognize the day that begins to happen is usually the good Lord saying this is your day to get out of politics. And so it's knowing when to gracefully exit, what your time is, when to stay in, and ultimately staying accountable. So am I concerned? There's always concern, but I'm determined that's not going to happen to me.
What's your number one legislative priority?
Number one, I think we just have to get people back to work. I know you've heard that from a lot of people. Legislatively, what we need to do is make a very strong statement. We're extending the tax cuts. Cap and trade is dead. All the terrible job-killing legislation out there, the repealing of the health care bill, even if we can't fully repeal it, to send the message that we're intent on doing that restores a lot of the confidence in the free market sector. I've talked to literally countless of small business owners that say that's our biggest enemy is that uncertainty. And this idea that the president and Congress create jobs is wrong. We're not job creators. We can create an environment for job creation, but we're not job creators. So that's important, as well as just restoring that bridge between Washington, D.C. and the district. So that accountability, that transparency. And I think when we begin to make those changes, we begin to move in the right direction of restoring people's faith that the government is a reflection of themselves, getting people back to work, and then wrestling this mighty deficit we have.
I'm going to assume you're against earmarks.
I am, yeah.
And so what would your argument be to your members, perhaps even on the other side of the aisle, who are for earmarks? There is going to be an earmark ban, or at least legislation to that effect.
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be an earmark ban. I think that's a good step when we're dealing with the deficits and the debt we have. And I think, frankly, most of the delegation is going to come around all over the place. I think the key is right now is we have to send a message that, we've got to make tough decisions. We can't continue business as usual. And so when we make those tough decisions, and that temporary ban on earmarking will do that, that begins to send the right message. We have to send a very strong message, I think, to Main Street that D.C. is going to be doing things a little differently now.
And finally, you're one of the more unique members of Congress in that you fly military aircraft. Are you going to be able to continue that? Tell us what you do.
That's my goal. That's my intention. I fly an RC-26, which is a reconnaissance plane. Stateside, we do counter-drug, counter-narcotics missions. Overseas, we have a very specialized mission. It's a job I love. And I'm going to stay in as a reservist, as a guardsman. But I know it's going to be pretty tough to do because the time requirements on you as a U.S. congressman is pretty intense. But to me, it's important because it's good to stay in touch with the folks in the military because national defense is our #1 job.
Well, congratulations and
Thanks.
best of luck in the 112.
Thanks. Good to be here.